Okay, here we go. Hi everybody. My name is Kaver Rintan. I'm an animation supervisor at MPC in Montreal right now. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, and I would love it if we can then you guys can tell me a little bit about yourself, and we can kick it off. I've been working since 2005, 2006 in animation. I've been working on all sort of different studios and shows like TV commercials, short films, feature films, VFX, and uh, I uh, I started. I fell in love with animation. I remember I was a kid, like I was 5, 6, I think, and the first time I saw Disney's Jungle Book. And back then it was VHS tapes. Some of you may not remember VHS tapes. It was like big blocks like this. You had to rewind it before and then put it in, and then every time you watched it, actually the quality would go down a little bit. By the end, I must have watched it 100 times. It was just white noise at the end. It was just a sound that I could hear. Anyway, yeah, I've been working on different studios around the world. Right now, we're working on Disney's Pinocchio at MPC, Montreal. And before that, I worked on Cruella, which came out recently, and Lady and the Tramp, and the TV series, His Dark Materials, and then other shows that were not, I don't remember that much. Um, anyway, just a quick run through of the course. What we're going to do, well, first of all, the exercises and homework is optional. You may choose to do it, you may choose not to do it. I would strongly recommend that you do it. Because in my experience, you learn animation by doing mistakes. Nobody gets it on the first try. You have to do it, and then the first time you make a lot of mistakes, and then the next time you correct a few, and then the next time you see other mistakes, you correct a few, and then you keep it up, you do it enough times, you get to a point that it's flawless, beautiful animation. So while it's optional, I would strongly suggest that you do it, and keep in mind that like what we're gonna present here and talk about here is like maybe 10-15%. The rest of the 85% is you guys putting in the time on your own and doing like studying or animating or doing everything again and again to get the most out of the course. To give you an example, way back when I took an online course with iAnimate when I was learning, and at the time my job was like crazy. I didn't have any time to put into my exercises, and by the end I realized that I basically missed the whole thing. Like other students, I saw their improvement, but then because I didn't have time to put in, my work did not improve as much as the rest of the class. So yeah, please, if you can, put in the time and do the homework. Do more than is required, because that's like basically that's what you get out of the course. So yeah, we're gonna have 12 sessions, which we're gonna try to cover as much as we can about creature and basically the animals that are most represented in movies, which are basically quadrupeds like canine, dogs, family of dogs, feline, family of cat, tiger, lion, and then the horse family, which is a little bit less represented if you look at the VFX movies overall. and then mythical creatures that there's no real ones around, like a dragon, a griffin, or dinosaurs that are extinct. And then after that, we're gonna look at creatures that fly. That's a whole different physics and mechanics to it. And then at the end, we're gonna study lip sync for animals and how to do super realistic lip sync like they did in Lion King or we did in Lady and the Tramp, which personally I hate, but that's what the director wanted. And on the other side, how to push it a little bit toward the exaggerated cartoony style and finding that sweet line in the middle where you look at it and you feel like, oh, that's a real dog, but there's talking, but it's a real dog. And it's like that fine line where you land and everything is working. And then, of course, if we have time, we're gonna talk about the facial performance for a realistic creature, and then when you want to push it to get more acting, because animals in reality do not have any facial expressions except for maybe dogs. Dogs have very expressive eyebrows, but other than that, there's not much of the human facial represented in the animal kingdom. So yeah, we're gonna look at examples. I'm gonna do like demonstration with the rigs that we have available at the starting from next week. I'm just gonna open up the rig. We're gonna see how much we can do. Maybe a walk cycle, a run cycle, a jump, as much time as we have. I'm gonna try to animate straight ahead, like with no preparation, like straight from the code, gathering the references, analyzing references step by step, animating, blocking, and then polishing it as much time as we have. And then for the next class, but these are the exercises that would be great if you guys can then do it all over again on your own time. Because again, you learn by doing. And then, okay, so now before we officially begin, we have a small class so we can go through, and everyone, if you're comfortable, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me what's your expectations to get out of the course and what are your career goals overall, and then we can start from there. Arthur, let's go.
Cool. Hey everyone, I'm Arthur. I'm fairly new to the industry. I've been working for the last 2 years. I work as a pipeline TD. I started off a bit of rigging, then I shifted to fully pipeline. I studied really basic animation in the past, but I've always liked it, and pipeline was what became more easier to me. But I really want to learn the more artistic side and get to practice the basics and really learn the fundamentals. And I especially love creature animation more than acting and performance. So yeah, just really excited.
Okay, cool. So you come from the technical side and you've started animating, and then you would like to transition completely to become an animator. That's correct?
I'm not sure yet, to be honest. I'm still, my goal now is just use as much of my free time to at least learn, just because it's something that I like. But I do want to at some point shift over to animation.
Okay, cool. Sounds great. Cool.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. Mark, hey.
Hello.
Hello.
I've been animating for about 15 years, I think. I started
Oh
in
man,
games.
nice.
Yeah, it's been up and down, but I started in games.
Mhm,
Worked on some nice games. Then I went to television. Then I went to feature a little bit, low budget feature.
mhm,
And now I'm back in television. But this past year in television has not been fun.
mm,
And I've found myself a little de-skilled and wanting to leave TV and go into something else.
mhm,
I'm not sure what yet. And over my career, I've done a little bit of animal work, but I've never really delved into it before. I've tried to do the cartoony stuff, which I'm not naturally aligned to. I'm more aligned to slightly stylized realism.
mhm,
Um, and I don't know. I just have a feeling that creatures could be more interesting
mhm,
than the other stuff. With regards to career, I don't think I want to do VFX because I think I'm a bit old now for 18-hour days and
mhm,
living in London
mm,
in a box in someone else's house.
yeah,
Um, I'd love to do it, but I think I'm just a bit too old to live that lifestyle again.
mm,
But I think I'd quite like to go back to games, maybe get onto a nice fantasy game with some fantasy creatures.
okay,
Yeah, that's about it.
cool, cool. Yeah, yeah. We're gonna have some um uh, sessions that are gonna be interesting to you specifically, like for the mythical creatures and like dragons and that kind of stuff, which I know. Well, overall, like getting better with creature animation, like quadrupeds in general, like flying, it's gonna help in the
Yeah,
game side because they do need to have believable physicality, like be grounded, and then you can push it from there and exaggerate it. Okay, cool. Yeah, we're gonna have some stuff that hopefully
cool.
will be helpful for you.
Do you know Steve Hawthorne?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he seems to know everyone, but I think he's been at NPC Montreal.
yeah. We worked together, unfortunately, on Cats 2, 3 years ago. That
He
was
never told me he worked on that one.
that was not a good movie. Yeah, we did not enjoy it, but we had to do it. But yeah, we met there, and now I think he's working on another show right now at NPC. Yeah, he's very very cool guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
cool. Thanks, man. Okay, Tom, I'm not sure if you can help me how to pronounce your first name. I,
Yeah, that's right. Hey, hello. I have been an animator for 11 years and now I'm living in Beijing and working with my iAnimate.net mentor, Po Chong. And honestly, my English is not good. I will have a translator after school. If you find that I don't ask any questions and don't understand questions in class, please don't worry too much
okay.
because I don't. Yeah. My spoken English and yeah, you know. And I really want to learn creature animations, and now it has final control.
Mm,
Thank you.
cool.
Okay.
Cool, cool. No worries, no worries. Your English is already good. If at at certain point you have questions, you can always type them in the chat on Discord for me, and I'll try to get back to you as best as I can.
Cool. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, man. Okay, Martinez.
Hey,
Hello.
how's it going?
Good,
Yeah, I've
good. How
been
are you?
hey, no, good man. Yeah, I've been an animator now for 10 years, mostly working in sort of more stylized work. I'm actually based in Cape Town, South Africa,
Okay.
and working at a place called Triggerfish for the most part. I've recently uh, uh, started work at a place called Blue Zoo in London, full remote at the moment. Yeah, I'm looking at going into VFX. So yeah, and I thought that this course is perfect because that's where you're at, MPC and doing that stuff. So I've started before at Animation Mentor, and I've done way back. I think it was perhaps a bit premature at the time, but I did their creature course, and it's exactly like you said. My story is quite similar, where my work was just too busy, and I had done the course, but not couldn't do the exercises as well as I wanted to. And so yeah, animation's practice. So hopefully this time around I can do a little bit more of that with this
Cool.
course. So
Cool. Yeah. It's all practice. Okay. Cool. Let me quickly do something here and do something here. There you go. This one's better. This camera doesn't have the long enough cable, and it was right in my face, and it was bothering me. All right. Okay. Now, for anything in animation, but especially for creature animation, one thing that is essential is observation. Because until you know what is it that you want to do and what it is that you have to do in order to get the result that you want, you won't be able to do it. And the key to that is observation, and it's the difference between looking and seeing. They say you look but you do not see. And one thing that's going to help tremendously is that if you guys put aside like 30 minutes a day, or if that's too much, 15 minutes a day, to start finding references online, videos from different creatures, like your 4-second video, and just study it and look at it from the point of view, okay, if this was a shot, if like the director comes to me and say, hey, take this rig, I want to do exactly like this. How would you approach it? How would you break it down? And then put those in a folder for your own. Just keep them. For example, a cat jumping, a dog barking, a lion pouncing. Quick videos, and keep them. Every day you add one video, 2 seconds, 1 second, doesn't matter. It's just the objective is to start training your eye to be able to see all the details, because we all learn animation by starting with a biped character. It's a human character. We all learn it that way, which gives us some the details that go into a quadruped to do it at a high level I found are a lot more than what goes into a biped. In biped, you only have one center of gravity, 2 legs, one a way to balance the character, and that's all you have to worry about. When you come to a quadruped, like for example, the dog, you have the hips, you have the chest, you have the head, and each part moves separately, but influence the other parts as well. So just training your eye to see the difference between each part. When the hips move up and down, how are they affecting the chest? And how is the chest moving up and down or side to side is affecting the head? So just start to observe, and it's going to help you train your eye, and it's going to help you to, when you want to animate something and then you're gathering references, you're going to get to the point of being able to analyze and break down the main poses and the main moves much faster and more accurately. So this is just something on the side. if you have the time, it's a great exercise. And then again, coming back to the reference, there's a story about Milt Kahl. I'm sure you guys know who it was, one of the 9 old men at Disney. He animated Shere Khan in Jungle Book. And after that, like it came out, people were like blown away by how much real the tiger was, how much weight it had. And they asked him, did you use any reference of real tigers for Shere Khan? And he said, no. And then everybody was, what? How? And he said, well, I studied the references so much that I knew by heart how a tiger moves. And when it come to animating, I didn't need the reference. I knew how a tiger weight shifts and turns and does all that stuff. Just goes to show you the importance of reference and analyzing it and learning it to the point that you know by heart what a certain move does, like a lion. And then you just look at the reference just to be sure what you already know, which is of course going to help with the speed of your work. But again, all of these homework are optional, but please do it because it's going to help you so much. All right, let's get to it. I'm sharing my screen. Good. Okay, I want to start with this. This is a handout by Glenn Keane. He was one of the legendary Disney animators who animated The Beast in Beauty and the Beast, the original version, and so many others. I can't remember. The rat in the Great Mouse Detective, the bad guy in Treasure Planet. Just to tell you, he knows his stuff. And this comes from the perspective of a 2D animator, which at the time, they didn't have the luxury of real-time playback in Maya. So they really had to learn how an animal moves before they put pencil to paper and waste their time. So this is a handout that he did for the team. It's circa 2000. And there's some very interesting stuff here. I will give you the link later to download this. But just a few things to look at. Essentially, a dog or a cat consists of 3 solid parts: hips, chest, and head. These parts are solid. And then the spine and the neck are more flexible, which connect these 3 solid parts. And then when you look at it from a 2D animator perspective, the flexible parts are the parts that they would use to squash and stretch, which was their primary tool to show force, to show, well, for example, for a jump. You would think that in a realistic style, you cannot do a squash and stretch because we think of squash and stretch as literally stretching the rig. But squash and stretch also happens within the poses of a body, even if you do not stretch it, which you can see here just shows that dog jumping from a squash to a stretch, you do not change the proportion or the volume of the solid parts, but you can use the flexible parts to show that squash and stretch. And then another thing that is very interesting here is the comparative anatomy between humans and quadrupeds, which is the bone structure is essentially the same, but with the main difference that if a human would go all on fours and we would walk on fingertips like this, we would be the dog. There are some other differences, but that's the main difference. You see, like a dog doesn't have a thumb. The thumb, because it was no use to a dog, the thumb has shrunk. Like if you look at a dog, the thumb doesn't, it's like up here, and then you have the wrist, you have the upper arm, you have the elbow, like this here. And the other difference is the shoulder blades. The shoulder blades in the human are placed back, like in the back, because, and then allows you to bring your arms up laterally, whereas in the dog and the cat, the shoulders have come to the sides to give them more range of motion in this axis because they need to run fast. But like a dog cannot move its arms past a certain angle in this direction. Same for the hips. Like you have the thigh is the same. You have the shin, and then it's essentially a human who's walking on the toes. Again, with the shoulder blades. Shoulder blades are in a quadruped are very interesting because they're one of the main things that show weight. And that shows, we're going to look at some references, but that primarily shows when they walk and run. The shoulder blade acts as the chest. The chest has an up and down, like any walking or running motion. As with a human, the main thing that sells the weight is the up and down. The second thing is the side to side. Like these two, the up and down and the side to side, contribute like maybe 90% of the perception of weight when you see the quadruped animation. And then within that, the shoulder blades are what catch the weight when the chest is doing that up and down. The chest goes down, the leg catches the weight and then stops the chest, but the shoulders go up and catch that weight. If you look at a tiger walk, you see the shoulders go boom, boom, boom with every step, which shows you that the weight, catch the weight, pushed off, next step, catch the weight, and then that shoulder going up and down is one of the main visual cues that the audience register when they look at a tiger walking, and it tells them, hey, this has weight. Again, the same idea, like this one to the left is a human walking on the fingertips and the toes. The other, is a dog doing the same thing. One thing to remember with it for a quadruped, when they walk, the leg that is straight is the one that has the weight on it, and the leg that is bent is the one that doesn't have weight, because the way to support the weight is always to lock a leg. As we all know, when a human stands and then the weight goes on one leg, the leg that is straight has the weight, the other leg that is free doesn't have. It's the same principle with the quadrupeds. Just to keep in mind, we're gonna go into detail more. And then these are just for, this is another interesting thing. If you look at a dog from a top view and you look at them walk, they have a wavy motion to them that reverses. The line of action is one side, the leg and the arm come together, the other side stretches for that step, and then it reverses for the other step. This is good to remember for when you later start to do your walk cycles. And then here at the end, there's some good good poses. This is something very nice that in a neutral pose, when a cat or a dog is standing, the spine for the back is not straight. The reason for that is the hips are always higher than the chest. So there's always a little bit of curve there. Further that it contributes to the feeling of a dynamic pose, because when you have a pose and everything is straight, all the main lines of your pose is straight, is boring. It's not interesting to look at. But when you have curves versus straights, then your pose becomes more dynamic and more interesting to look at. And there's something else. Okay. Yeah. Cool. Let's take a look at a little bit of more anatomy stuff. You can see my screen. There we go. Again, this is a dog. You see that the hips are always higher than the chest. And you always get, wait, let me open this bit. Yeah, so you see, the hips have always an angle to them, which is like this. They're never straight. So when you pose, like when you start posing your character, always remember that the hips always have a rotation to them, which usually is in RX in most rigs, but is just in this rotation. And then there's always a asymmetry with the way that the legs are placed in a neutral pose. This one is not a good representation because they like flatten out the character to show the bone structure, but usually is that one side the leg is placed back, the same side the leg is the back leg is a little bit forward. This was a little bit back. The other side is the opposite, which when you look at it from the top is a little bit like this. One side, the front leg and the back leg are farther apart. The other side are closer. This side will be a little bit stretched. This side will be a little bit squashed. And then the head is usually like this a little bit. Just because when you open a rig, everything is in like a perpendicular, like straight angles. And usually what I do when I first start a rig shot, I just place this quickly so that it gets out of that clinical pose that screams like this is not real, this is CG, just to get it to a more workable state. We have, yeah, for the cats versus the dogs, this is interesting as well. Right, let me open it with RV. The main structure for the anatomy of a feline versus the canine is the same, but the difference is in the length and of the back legs. For a cat, you see that in a neutral pose, the legs are more coiled, like they're more squashed. And that is the reason why when a cat jumps, they do not need any anticipation. A cat can be sitting like this, and then from that pose, they can jump like 3 times, 4 times their height. And this is one of the reasons, because their hind legs, which is basically the driving force of a cat, is already in a crunch anticipated pose. And then when they go into a straight pose, they can launch the animal forward. Just to keep that in mind. And then This one is the same. Yeah, when you talk about cats, and then bigger cats like tigers or like puma or lions, the principles are the same of the movement, but remember that when with big cats, everything is slower because they're heavier. Heavier creatures need more time to do the same action. Let's say one walk cycle, if for a cat is like 12 frames or 8 frames, the same cycle for a like full-grown lion will take twice as long because they need that time to move all that mass. And if you don't do it, then the weight is not there. Then you're looking at a lion, but then suddenly you see that it doesn't feel like you're a lion because it's moving too fast and you're not registering the weight for the audience. Cool. Any questions so far? All good? Okay. Let me consult my trusty notes. Okay. One thing, now let's take a look at a few refs and see how we can so like in humans, when creatures move, animals move, there's always something that leads and something that follows. And identifying that is gonna help you a lot when you're posing the character for your main poses. For example, let's look at this little guys. Well, the first one basically. You see the cat is following that ball, looks like a ball of socks. And the chest and the head leads for the first part, for this part. But then she wants to jump after it. What happens after that is that now all this stuff are connected. It's not, you cannot separate it from here to here and then like it's not A to B to C. You have to think about it, but we're just gonna break it down and then but everything is connected in a way that when you look at it, it's just one fluid movement, especially with cats. But you see here, the legs, the hind legs are like this. And then when she wants to jump, they go to a almost straight as she jumps forward. But the chest and the head led that upward motion for the first 4 or 5 frames. Then the force becomes here within the hips, pushing back on the leg and launching the cat in the air. And then you see, because the legs have more momentum, they overtake the body, the mass of the chest. When they started, the hips were here, the chest was here. And this was their relationship. Now here, the chest is here, the hips are here. So they come within under the chest because of the force of the jump. And then they land first, and then the cat lands after. So like something like this, that's something, this is a great exercise. Like finding a video like this, it's like 60 frames, and just analyzing it for yourself to see which parts move first, what is the force, when they go in the air, how much the chest moves forward versus the hips, what is the head doing versus the chest, and what part land first, what parts land second, and then after they land, what they do after they land. Usually, in most cases, in the case of a jump, when the chest, the hip, the head land, there's always 1 or 2 bounces as they settle that downward energy, and then they become into a neutral pose, like boom, boom, boom. But their bounces are never on the same frames. There's always one that leads and one that follows. Finding all those stuff, and then so that this stuff is that what when you do it in your animation, then suddenly it has weight and it becomes a living, breathing creature. Whereas before it's just a bunch of geometry moving around. Let's take a look at this guy here. Again, a cat jumping high and high. You see the head goes first in the first few frames. Then the front legs push the chest up. Then the back legs push everything up until here. Chest, hips, and then the chest reached their maximum TY at this point, and they start their hang time. But at the same time, the hips are still going up because the chest pushed off sooner, so that its energy died out, but the hips pushed off like 4 or 5 frames after, so they still have their momentum going up. So while the chest comes to a stop and starts going down, the hips are still going up, and then they come back after. You see here, the chest is basically pinned in this pose, where the hips are still going up, still going up, still going up, and then the chest goes down, and that twist that the cats do in the air to be able to land on all 4 legs. Another cat example, this guy. Again, this is a episode of Natural Geographic when they studies the forces of a cat when they move around. But this is great to see that like when you want to animate or study, you come to this pose, which is like the coiled up pose. Because it has so much fur, it's hard to see, but it's basically, this is like this, this, this. These are the main, like thigh, shin, and then the rest of the leg. And then from here, it goes, everything stretches into almost straight. And that is what pushes or launches the cat in the air. And within that upward move, then they come back up again to be able to grab the table here. Here, this is the same like this. So they started like this on the ground. They went into a straight, and then within that hang time of the cat going up, they came into this pose again to grab the edge of the table so that the weight can move. Let's see. Okay. Cool. Sorry, 1 second. Okay. And then let me show you an example of a cat jump fail. This is a good one. You see, this little guy wants to jump, but because there's no friction because of the snow, all that force that she transferred from the hind legs into the ground, the legs slide back, and all that force goes nowhere. And then there's a moment that the cat doesn't know what happened, hang time, and then head first into the, yeah. So like something like this is great to study for the forces of which parts move. And then we have some dog examples to cats. Okay, so dogs. So one thing here in this one that is interesting, let me play it one time, is that you see, if you look at the head and the chest, as he's coming to that mark on the ground where he wants to push off, the head and chest are coming down like this. Is a gradual move from here, like from here. You see, chest is here, head is here. And then as he comes to the mark, you see the angle of the body, the chest is going down, the head is going down. And then here, same thing, to get to that pose of the push-off, which will give her the most amount of range to push from this to this for the chest, for the front legs, to push off the chest up. And then see what happens here. In 3 frames, goes from here to here as the front legs push off the chest. Same thing happens with the hips. Here the hips, from their up and down cycle of the run, here the hips are higher. They come as low as it can get within the proportion of this dog, this bent pose, to be able to 2 frames later go to stretch straight and then launch this guy in ridiculous height. I don't know how it does it, but. And then the next interesting part is the landing, where the landing, it has so much force that if they land and stick it, like imagine a gymnast would do, like they need to land and stick, the force is too much for the dog. It would probably break or tear open some of the muscles. Instead, what they do, they transfer that force and that speed of coming down into from vertical into horizontal, and then it goes whoosh, and that's how they can absorb that much force and not injure themselves. So you see here, the legs land, the front legs land, they have contact with the ground in 3 frames, but then everything moves forward from that trajectory that the dog lands. So it lands and then goes forward. And then there's that bounce that we talked about. If you look at the chest, here the chest is down, there's a bounce, goes up, goes down again, and then settles into a stop. Another thing too, this is interesting, is that for the landing to get the most basically break, like to engage the most of the muscles to break, they always reach with their maximum extension for the arms and legs for that contact pose. You see the legs are their maximum so they can have the range to absorb all that force. Same with the hind legs. You see the contact here? Straight as a dog can go. And then goes into this, which is as bent as it can go to absorb the force. Let's see. Okay. One thing I wanted to mention is that this is a personal preference, but usually when we learn animation, we learn stepped for blocking. Like we usually, that's how I started in animation. Like do your poses in step mode. They jump like on 4s, on 3s, they step, jump, 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 and then work everything, and then you spline it out, and then you keep working on it. For animals, that's not the most ideal way. Personally, I would suggest layer method, where you move the whole body first to work out the path. Then you go one by one, hips, chest, head. You work out there because they're independent of each other. When you're doing a walk cycle for a dog, if you use the main body control for the up and down, then there's no way, then you have to go and counter it with the chest and the hips and the head because they don't have the same timing. So my suggestion and the way that I found work best is that you would use the global control, like the body control, only for rotation in RY, like if you look at it from the top in this, and then for translation TX and TZ to move the character in space. For anything that has up and down, I would suggest using the hips control separately, the chest, the head, and then once all that is worked out, you can do the legs. There's no way to do the legs in step mode because they have a different pose in every frame. It's not like a human walk cycle when you do the contact pose, 3 frames later, down pose, 3 frames up, 3 frames contact, and then the cycle. In every frame, they have something different. My suggestion is to do layers. I can show you an example, a shot I did on Cruella. Let's cut off the sound. So this is the little puppy walking up and sitting by the girl and just looking around. Now, for example, something like this, if you want to do pose to pose step, if you want to block it like that, you have to set a key every 2 frames to be able to work it out. However, if you do it layered, like for example, when I started this shot, I hit all the arms and legs and just did the body moving in 3D space. No up and down, just coming to a stop from here all the way to here and then sitting down. And then once I was happy with that, I added the up and down of the hips and the chest. And then once I was happy with that, I added the corresponding steps. And then once everything was worked out, I added the head acting, like here when he looks up, he looks down, he's sniffing something, he comes to here, and then looking at her, looking at the kids to the other side, and then polishing it, then adding more details. But so you guys already know this, but when you start a shot, you should already know what is it that you want to do. Like you should do your planning before you even start Maya. You have to know that I want the dog, for example, the puppy here, to start from this pose back there, and I want the puppy to do a turn here, to come here, and then do a turn to come here and sit down. Like this is the main things that need to happen, so that when you start your posing, there's no guesswork. You already know what you want to do. It's just a matter of executing the plan. And then on top of that, one thing that is nice that we can just quickly mention is that in the case of dogs eyebrows have very quick timing, as with humans eyebrows, but dogs the eyebrows move usually in 2 or 3 frames, and that's even more pronounced with puppies. And one of the things that sell the dog is that quick eyebrow movement, boop, 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 that they do when they eye dart from one thing to another. Like for example, here you can see the eyebrows, boop, in 2 frames. And usually when fur comes on top of it and they render it out and the motion blur comes on top of it, it all smooths out a little bit. But if you look at the animation, it's just 2 frames, boop, boop. Something that is interesting a little bit, at least for me. Cool. Let me see. Okay, one thing to mention quickly, we have some rigs available. Let me see where they are. So in this page on thinkfig.com, when you scroll down, you have some rigs. We're gonna add more rigs. These are all free licenses that we have. We can use for educational purposes, and you guys can use. But please remember to give credit to the owner when you use it. Like if you use it in your demo reel, just somewhere put this information here that you're gonna see, like the credits, because that's what the owners asked us to do. Yeah, so we have some rigs here. We're gonna add some more during the next week. One thing that would be great if you have time to just open up the rigs and get familiar with them. Just play around a little bit, see how are the controls placed. It's always good to be familiar with the rig before you start going in and starting your animation. We will do it together online as we go through it, but it's always good if you have some free time, just open them up, see what they are. These are free rigs, so they don't have the best like blend shapes and the corrective shapes for the facial, so they're not the best, but for the purposes of learning, I think they're good enough. So just something to keep in mind. Cool. Any questions so far? Any concerns?
Yes, I have a question.
Mhm.
When you're doing the layered method, how do you know where the feet are going to be placed without having them there? Like if you're working out all your hips, all your rotations, and you're taking the weight and everything, but you've got no legs planned out, do you already know exactly where the legs are going to land before you even pose them?
You cannot know exactly when they land, where they land, but you can know approximately where they will be. In a shot like I showed you, the exact placement of the feet were not important. The main thing from the director was that he wanted the puppy to be sniffing and going through this path and then sitting by the girl. So the feet placement were not part of the story of that shot. The main thing was the body movement. So in this specific case, I didn't care. But let's say you have a shot that a dog should come and press a button or press a buzzer or something. In that case, you need to work out that pose. For that one, yes, you need to have it placed there and then see everything before you start your shot. One thing I forgot to mention is that, for example, in this scenario, I first we shot a lot of for this film. They actually brought a puppy that looked exactly like this, and they shot a lot of references on the stage. So we had that footage. So I studied that first, and like, for example, found out that each step takes 6 frames. And each hip up and down is like 5 frames, right? So I knew approximately where the feet would land based on that. So here, 6 frames later is here, 6 frames later is here, and that would serve the purpose of the dog moving where I wanted. But for this shot, because it was not important, I did not care, and there's no way to know exactly. But if for a shot, you have a shot, and it's very important for the storytelling purposes that the paw should land exactly here, then you have to back into that, or maybe start from that pose and then back into the beginning pose, and then by that way you are sure that your feet is gonna end up there. But yeah, essentially the layer pose takes some getting used to. If you haven't used it, it's a little bit like you have to get used to how to best utilize it. But once you get past it, once you get comfortable with it, it makes your life much easier. At least in my experience.
I want to.
Cool. Let me see. Let me show you this. Okay. I wanted to look at the tiger. So yeah, so the main thing for the weight that sometimes some animators miss is the up and down. So basically, we want to get the up and down as accurately as possible. The second thing to sell the weight in all quadrupeds is the side to side for each step. For each step to happen like a human, they first need to put the weight on the opposite side so that this leg or this arm can lift and land. And then all the weight would go to this side so that the other leg or arm can take that step. And in a heavy creature like a tiger, it's very pronounced. Let me cut off the audio. Sorry. So when you look at it, it's like the side to side, you can see it. You see the side to side of the chest and the hips is like boom, boom, boom. Here, when this step lands, look at this step, it lands here, and then you look at the mass of the chest, it goes to this side here. Now it's on this side, so this leg can, this arm can lift and land, and then boom, see here in 4 or 5 frames, everything goes to the other side, the chest. And the same thing is happening for the hips. And then there's a 1 or 2 frames overlap between the chest side to side with the head side to side. And boom, boom, boom. And when you look at it, it just feels heavy. On top of that, there's the up and down. Here, because we're looking at it from the front, we see it most in the head up and down. You see that bounce that the head does. From here, 1, 2, 3, 3 frames goes down, and then 5 or 6 frames comes back up. Holds on top. This is another thing. It's never, not never, usually it's not a simple curve. Like if you set one key, like if you go to your graph editor, open the TY and set one key up, one key down, and then copy paste it, and you get this curve. It's not usually like this. Usually it stays on the top and just have that bounce. But then there are some frames that the head or the chest or the hips are staying at that top, and then boom, and then boom, and then boom. But you can see it here with the head. Comes on top, boom, 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 boom. And then on top of that, there's some rotations that happens on the head. When it's coming down, it's a little bit like this, and then when it's absorbing the weight, goes like this in a slow motion, and then again, that's selling the weight. And then if you look at the paws, I love this part, the paws of the tiger. You see, it lifts, it's like this if you look at it from the side, then rotates inward as it's flipping over, flips and still has this little bit of like this rotation versus the ground, and then lands, and as it lands, the fingers splay out, absorb the weight, overshoot, and come back and settle a little bit. The toes, boom, boom, and then there's a little bit of shake if you look at the thumbs when they land the fingers, boom, boom, which is another thing that sells the weight. Okay, so another thing that I wanted to check is horses. Now, usually like feline and canine are the most family of animals represented in animation. Movies, not so much in games. Games have a wider range of creatures. But in movies, it's usually dogs, cats, lions, tigers, and then on the next level, less represented, but still in the majority are horses. Which, if I find it, it's this guy. Now the basics and the fundamentals are the same. Like again, you have your hips, you have your chest, you have your head and neck, and they all move separately while influencing each other. One thing that is the same, but it's nice to notice is that if you look at the hips and they're up and down, they come down in here for the landing of the leg. Then as the hip are absorbing the weight, they rotate backward. You see here, the hip is like that, the rotation, and then as you see this frame, this two frame is rotating this way. Usually is RX in most rigs. Rotates that way. Then again, here when the leg comes forward, rotates back from here, rotates this way for this leg to land, and then rotates back again. This is very pronounced in horses. It happens the same in cats and dogs, but less. And especially because they're furry creatures, we don't see it as much, but because horses is just very lean and muscular, we see it more. But you see that up and down and that rotation. Same is happening on the chest. The chest has less up and down, but you see it in the head. Boom, boom, boom. And if you didn't found the one from this from the back, but I have a dog from the back, which is nice to see. So you see again the side to side, when one leg lands, all the weight of the hip goes to one side, goes to this side, so that this leg can lift. And then there's some RY happening. If you look at it from the top, is this rotation, which is bringing the leg forward. And as it lands, you see when this leg lifts, there's the RZ that goes down a little bit. So this is the RZ. If it's level here when the foot is landing and this leg is absorbing the weight. It goes a little bit like this, rotates down, and then again goes back up, levels out a little at the middle of the step, goes down here for the landing, for the contact, and then goes back again this way, and the cycle repeats. This is, yeah. Same thing happens with the chest. Every step, side to side for the legs, and the up and down, and all the rotations. In our classes, when we later when we focus on like dog walk cycles, we're gonna analyze everything more in depth. But just these are all part of that observation study that we spoke about. That is great exercise to do. Just finding some videos, analyzing the movements, and then comparing each part to the other to see how they influence each other, which is also a great exercise to do. I had another thing I wanted to talk about. Yeah, this video is also nice, which something that is very obvious in cats and also in most creatures, and it's something to remember because it adds so much. It makes your animation more interesting. Is the contrast in timing. You know, they say like a good shot usually has 3 speeds in it: medium, slow, and fast. Human eye loves contrast. If you have a shot where everything is evenly timed, it's not as interesting as where you have highs and lows, when something moves fast and slows down and then moves fast and then has a little change of speed, and contrast is what makes your animation more interesting. And well, of course, we cannot force it. We have to first observe it in real life, and then we can take that and then we can push it. Now, something here, see, for this jump from frame 1 to frame 15, the cat is basically squashing down. Starts from here and goes into here. And when you look at it, it's like this. In a very slowly time, goes there. And then in 3 or 4 frames from there, goes from completely squashed like a ball, straightens out into this pose. And when you look at the timing, it's like this. See that? And if I wanted to animate this, I would exaggerate it even more. I would add like 6 more frames to that, depending on the length of my shot. I would make that first part even longer so that I can get more contrast out of it. So something to always look for is opportunities where you can add more contrast for your timing. Like when you're looking at a reference for something you want to do, always keep an eye out for areas where you can exaggerate the timing to add more interest. See, slow, boom, fast. And then after that, there's a little bit of hang time usually. Well, not for this guy because he's basically walking up the wall here. But just this part I thought was very interesting to look at. You have to be on lookout to spot the opportunities, to add contrast. Otherwise, you miss it. If you just want to copy the reference, it's going to end up there, but you miss that opportunity to take advantage of that exaggeration in timing, where it adds more, like basically makes your shot more dynamic. And please keep that also in mind. Let's see if there's something else in this one. No, this one's all good. Cool. Okay, I think I showed everything in this folder. Okay, cool. Any questions so far? All good?
I have a question. When you're talking about pushing the timing, often in cartooning, especially in TV cartooning, we push things faster. So in that example you just showed, you said you'd make the slow part longer, but you wouldn't make the leap faster. You wouldn't take that down to 2 or 3 frames.
No, well, depends. Like my mindset right now comes from a VFX point, where in VFX you cannot push it past a certain point because it breaks the fur and the skin dynamics and all that stuff that comes after us. But yes, if you look at it from a like cartoony perspective, yes. Let me bring that back up. It was this guy. Yes, if this was a like a feature or a cartoony style, and I wanted to push that even more, what I would do is this. I would come to this pose, which is basically the anticipation pose, and I would go in 2 frames into this.
Yeah.
And the middle frame, I would favor the, like here, like something like this.
Yeah.
In 2 frames, I would go there, and maybe I would copy the limbs and add multiple limbs. Like on that 1 frame, I would add multiple limbs to just help the eye follow it, you know?
Yeah.
Yes, in that situation, you would push it. Just remember that if like you need to, when you push it like very, very fast action, you need to after give it enough frames for the viewer's eye to catch up.
Yeah.
If you make the whole, for example, in this one, you make the whole walk wall jump to the top fast, then it becomes a little bit not believable because you're taking away the weight and the ability of the audience to follow what's happening. And they see 1 frame here, next frame there, and with the motion blur, they see, oh, what happened? Where'd the cat go? Which is something you don't want. You want your action to be clear, but have that contrast in time. Yeah, but yeah, your point is very valid here. That you would go in like 2 frames from the antique pose into the push-off pose. Look at this guy going up the wall. Cool. Okay. Oh, we have good time. We have time to open up Maya. Let me open up Maya and we can start with one of our trusty rigs. Let's see. Cool. Okay, while we're waiting for Maya to load, for you guys, for homework for next week, again, optional, but if you want to do it, please find 3 videos online. The length can be very short, can be like 100 frames, 60 frames, 80 frames, like up to 4 seconds. Does not need to be long. Find the videos that are most interesting to you. what happens in the video is not very important. But one dog, one canine, one feline, and one like from a horse, and analyze the action. Study it from the point of view that this is your shot. Like the director comes to you and says, hey, this is your shot. Take this rig. I want the dog or the cat or the horse to do something like this reference. And think about, okay, if I want to animate this, how would I begin? What are the main poses? What are areas where I can squash and stretch? What is the hips doing? What is the chest doing? Everything that we touched on today. Study it, analyze it, make some notes if you want. I would love it if you're up for it to present it to the class next week, so we can all take a look at it. But even if you don't want to do that, just for yourself, 3 videos, analyze it like we did today, and come look at it from the point of view like planning as if it was your shot and you wanted to animate. Which is again a good exercise to train the eye to start to see all the little subtleties of the creatures. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna do same here, so make sure the links that we have here are good. Lion, this guy, upload the file. How would you download? Oh, I have to learn how to download from this website. Okay.
Hey, Kaveh, try
Yes.
hitting preview there and see if it'll actually preview the page. Because I think you're in edit mode, so it's for
yes.
uploading.
Oh, yes, you're right. There we go. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Downloads Lion. Yeah, unfortunately, these are free rigs, so by that way, they're not the best. But for the purposes of learning, I think they should be good enough. Paste it here. Nice. Extract here. There we go. And it gives us this folder. Details. Lion. Here we go. Okay. We have a rig, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. One thing that's always good when you first open up a rig is to get familiar with it. I did not have this week the time to play around with it, unfortunately. I'm gonna do it next week. We're working on Pinocchio, and right now we're in a crunch where we start working 7 in the morning and we usually finish by 8 or 9 in the evening. So yeah, so if, by the way, if during the week you send me a message, I try to get back as quickly as I can, but sometimes because of the crazy work schedule, it might be a little delayed. My apologies in advance. So one thing I wanted to quickly show while we still have the time is the layer thing. Now, what I usually do is that I put the legs and the feet in FK and body space, so they move with the body when I'm doing my first blocking. Here I have to see. Okay. Usually you have a space for it. Okay, I have to spend some time with it. But anyway, for example, I want character. Let's say I grab all my main body, my legs, set a key here, and go 30 frames later, and move them up here. And let's say this is what I want the character to move. So you see here it's just like that. This is how I would block out. Like let's say if it was a shot like this. And then after I had done my studies and written down, okay, a lion, like what is the timing of the hips, the chest, the legs, I would then go in and add the individual movements. For example, the hips is this one. It's not the best rig. It's very user-friendly. Doesn't tell you where are the there you go. Okay. There you go. Okay, let's do that. There you go. Okay. So now we are in IK. Usually I work with IK. So you have control for the hips. You have the control for the chest. And if I find the head, I put that one in IK as well. And I have one for the head. So now I can move them separately, independent from each other. So then I would say in this 30 frames, I want the hips. I go directly into my graph editor and say I want the hips to move maybe 7, 7, something like this. Grab these two guys, bring them down, grab these two guys and bring them up, just to quickly see how the timing works. Timing of the hips are good, but this is too much the distance for a simple walk. So I would go here and close that. Grab everybody. Oops. Grab everybody. There we go. Bring them further back. So you see something like this, where you can animate each part independently of the other. So the up and down of the hips do not influence the body and vice versa. And then I would do the same for the chest. Let's say right now we're not going to continue this animation, so I can be a little bit more less analytical with it, if that's the word, and then paste it here. Now, I copy pasted the up and down here, but now it's too much because, as you remember, the chest always has less up and down than the hips. And then I would do the same for the head. And I don't care about the legs at this point. I already know that, like, with each up and down of the hips, which is like about 7 frames, I need 1 step. So that when I get to it, I can just switch the legs to IK and just do a pass on them so that I make sure each step happens, and then they stay for 7 frames, and then they go, and then they go. But like, this is the layered method. It needs a little bit getting used to, but in my personal experience, it saves more time when you come to quadrupeds down the line. So I would suggest investing some time and getting familiar with it as we progress through this course. It's up to you if you want to continue with like pose to pose. I'm going to try my best to help you through it, but this is just as a suggestion. This I know works pretty well, and I know a lot of good animators who approach it with this in this way. Cool. So yeah, this is one of our rigs. Let's bring up the rest. We have the horse and we have the leopard. Now the lion and leopard are like from the same family, from the feline family. But play around with them. We're gonna add a dog, a canine rig, a dragon, and I think a kind of a T-Rex beast thing is a little bit more like a cartoony design. And then those will be available here as well for you guys to play with. Let's quickly bring up my... Okay, one quick thing I wanted to say about referencing. Now, we have our creatures that you can find in nature, and you can just find a good reference, analyze, and just animate. We have other creatures like a dragon, for example. There's no reference for it. And you say, okay, how do you find reference for a dragon or like a griffin? There's nothing like it. The way to approach it, I found, is that we need to still base it in reality. And we find the animals that at least represent part of your creature. For example, a dragon, when they walk, are more or less a quadruped. So we can approach it from that point of view. When they fly, they're like a heavy bird, like a bald eagle, maybe. We can approach their flight from that point of view. So you find references from different animals, and then you Frankenstein them together to find one reference, for example, for your mythical creature that you want to animate. But the principles are the same. So when you get good with animating the weight with like a dog or a cat, it's transferable. You have the skills, and you can do the same for for a dragon, for example, or a dinosaur or a T-Rex, which is very interesting because you know, sometimes there's a saying they say, like, for the animation doesn't need to be realistic but needs to be believable. And you know, you can push, you can exaggerate, you can push, but as long as the foundation of your animation is based in reality, people's going to believe it. You can push the timing, it still is going to be believable. Obviously in VFX you need to be realistic as well, like, because like the objective is that they need to look and move like a real animal, because they live in a live action world and they have to interact with real live actors. But just something to keep in mind, that always base your shots, your animation in reality and reference. By that way, you're sure that you build up to something that's believable. Okay. Questions, concerns? Shout it out, please. All good? Okay. Give me 1 second. Cool. Okay. Let's go. Alrighty then. One other thing I forgot to mention is the cycle for the dog. Where was it? Yeah, one thing that we're going to look at, but it's worth mentioning now, is like different gaits or cycles for different animals. This is something that it would be great if we can animate each one. Like for example, a dog has a walk, has a trot, has a I forget the names of them, has an amble, which is like, oops, sorry, which is like fast kind of walk. And then they have a pace, which is again a little bit faster. They have the trot, which is right before the run, which is like this. They have the flying trot, but it's just a faster trot. And canter, which is like this. This one is not the best example. And they have the gallop, which is basically their penultimate speed, not the fast. And then they have another one which I don't have in this video. So we're gonna try to animate each one. Maybe we don't have the time to get to all of them, but we will touch on them and study them. And I would love it if you guys go ahead on your own and just animate them on your own time as a homework, as an exercise, which is again gonna be a tremendous learning exercise. Same for cats, same for horses. They all have those different gaits. And then one thing that we will take a look at is the transition between one gait to the other. Like a dog is walking and suddenly wants to transition into a run, into a gallop, as is the correct name. So how to do that, we will like demonstrate the animation process from next week, from starting next week to do that. Very cool. I covered all of my notes for today. Okay, one other thing, please, homework. Look at anatomies of the main 3 animals that we discussed today: it's canines, dogs, cats, and horses. And just study the bone structure. It's gonna, it doesn't directly help with your animation, but it helps with understanding how what is underneath the character, which is going to be a great help later on when you want to animate it. Just to have that understanding of their basic anatomy is going to help a lot. So if you just do a Google search, I would upload my folder here with all the references, so you guys have it. But if you want to further study, the anatomy is always encouraged. So that's, please take some time to do that if you can. All this stuff, I will find a way to upload it. And then on top of that, if you have some time, study the musculature of each one. If you just type on Google, like anatomy, musculature, canine, you're gonna find a lot of references like this. Again, it's not something that would necessarily directly help with how you animate, but the understanding of the muscles and how they move and which parts they pull, they extend, which parts are all those forces that is involved. Again, it's gonna show later on in your animation when you're doing it. If you have the understanding, it's gonna bring your animation to like a new level and help with the believability. Very cool. Okay, so today we're gonna wrap around 5, which is 5 for me. Right around the 2-hour mark. From next week, would be great if you guys can carve out the time so we can go 2 hours and a half. Because from next week we're gonna start to animate, and it's gonna take. We're gonna like use every last minute of it because we have so much to cover, and not much time. Yeah, so during the week, please get familiar with the rigs, open them up. As you can see here, I did not do my homework. I was not, like the lion rig was not, I took my time to figure it out. But yes, during the week, take your time, change it around, play around with it. See all the controls. Oh, this is nice. Has some nice shapes for the eyebrows. Yeah, just like something like this. You see, like we talked about the solid parts, head, chest, and hips, and the flexible parts in between, which you can squash and stretch, where in nature, they is just a solid bone. It's like the continuation of the spine. It cannot squash and stretch. But like usually in VFX, we do it a little bit. In the cartoony feature side, they do it a lot, like more than this. But again, something that adds that last 5 or 10%. It's like they say, squash and stretch, especially something you should feel but not see. If you see it, if you can spot it, it's too much. But if you just feel it, as for example, this lion jumps, then that's the right amount. So yeah, please take your time this week. Get familiar with the rig, because these are the rigs we're going to use for our exercises later on as we go through the course. Just so you can work faster, I'm going to do the same this week. Okay, history is not too bad. We have some stuff for it. Yes. Spread. Oh, we have spread.
Hey, Kaveh, I got a quick question.
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, when you guys are working on with a creature that requires a lot of realistic muscle simulations, are your rigs, is that something they'll usually have included or in your rigs, or is that something they're doing in a different department when they do simulations for muscles?
Yeah, we do not have it on our rig puppets that we use for animation, because it's going to make it like very heavy and like impossible to work with. However, the department right after us at MPC, we call it Tech Anim. Other studios call it CFX, which is actually where they put the muscles and the fur and the skin simulation. And they hate animation. They hate our department because we always push it past what they have as a benchmark to not break the muscle or the skin or the fur. And they're always yelling at us, and we always yell back, but no, I want this silhouette to be like this. And they say, nobody's breaking the rig. And it's a constant fight. But no, we don't have it. But for VFX, we have to be like, we're careful not to push it past a certain point, because it's going to come back to us, and then we have to do it over again. Usually they set some boundaries on the rig for example, for the stretch value. Like they tell us, okay, the stretch value of the head should not go past 1.5, which means like 50% more than it is. Or same for the body, for the spine or the legs. But yeah, that's usually how it's working. Right now on Pinocchio, we have a little bit more leeway, and we're happy because we're working with a wooden puppet. So we can go a little bit more with the cartoony style, and the team is very happy. Like everybody is doing it too much. But yeah, for realistic animals, like on Lady and the Tramp, like on Cruella, they gave us some set values to not push it past that, because it would break the muscle system and the fur and the skin.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. Okay. Any other questions? How is everybody doing?
Yeah, I was wondering, sorry, my camera isn't coming on. So about locomotion, I can only imagine at MPC, you probably have by now quite a library of locomotion that you can use as a starting point. I was just wondering, how often do you actually end up animating a walk or a run, or, I guess it's case by case.
Yeah, it's usually at the pre-production stage, where we have not started on the actual shots. We have some time to develop the main cycles that we're going to need: walk cycle, run cycle, all that stuff, depending on the show. And we usually steal it from other shows that have the same proportions. And then as a starting point, and then we refine, because each character, while they're still the same family, like it's a dog is a dog, but in each show the proportions are a little bit different, and it's not something that you can just grab the anim curves from the library, put it there, and right off the bat it's going to work. It's going to need some adjustments, some fine-tuning. We do it at the pre-production stage. These days we don't have much time, but ideally we would, so that when we start the shots, there's already a walk cycle worked out, and we can just bring it in as a starting point. Actually, let me show you shot if I can find it. I did on Lady and Champ. 1 second. Which I had the Lady and Champ both walking side by side, and I started from a walk cycle that was already done. I personally prefer to do everything from scratch because like I'm old school. I don't like using other people's animation, and it's a little bit of a ego thing as well, because I think nobody can do it as best as I can, which is obviously I'm wrong, but you know, something to take for it. Okay, let's see. It's this shot right here. Let's take this.
Jim Deere
It's
and
this
Dalton
one.
must be worried sick about me by now.
Yeah, no, sure.
What does that look?
I've ever gotten. Maybe you do have rabies.
Jim
Yeah,
Deere
for
and
this
Dalton
one,
must be
I
worried
started
sick
with a walk
about me by
cycle
now.
and just put the acting of the head and the lip sync and everything on top. But yes, you're right. Usually we have it. Nowadays, after COVID, we went, like the industry went through a period where everything stopped. All the shows stopped coming. And then right now we're in a period that there's so many shows and we don't have, unfortunately, enough pre-production time to develop all this. Like every time we have to jump in, like in the deep end, and start on the actual shots, which doesn't give us enough time. But yeah, at MPC, like the past shows, there's a big wealth of anim curves already there. We just have to hunt it down, like fish it out and use it. But yeah, that's usually how it happens. Cool. Anything else you guys wanted to discuss before we wrap today? This folder that I have here for today, I will upload it so it's available to everybody. I'm not sure how I can do that, but I will find a way. I will put it here in this page, and then I will message on the Discord. Yeah, like I said, during the week, we are in a crunch time. So if you message me on Discord, might get some time to get back to you. But please message me if you have questions, if you have some work you want me to look at. Worst case scenario, I will look at it next Saturday, but I will try to do it during the week. And again, I cannot stress enough the importance of doing the homework. That's how you learn. That's how you take the most out of this course. You all paid money for it, so don't let the money go to waste. Don't limit yourself to just looking at the videos and just saying like, okay, I will find some time later to do the exercises. Don't put it later. I know that you never get to it if you do it and you just miss the opportunity. Do the exercises, please. Do the video ref analysis for next week, please. There's 2 good books, if you can find it online, is Muybridge Animal Studies, like in motion, This guy made this book, I don't know, 50 years ago, and still is the best, like next to video reference, is the best reference that we have for animal locomotion. It's called Muybridge. Let me just find it quickly. Muybridge. Animals in Motion. Edward Muybridge. Animals in Motion is this one. And there's two books. There's Human Figure in Motion, which is always nice if you like to study, but the ones that would be great to have is this one, Animals in Motion by Edward Muybridge. I'm sure you may be able to find a PDF version of it somewhere online. Yeah, but it's basically this thing that yeah, shows like all the cycles that you would ever need, just like frame by frame, basically, for the locomotion of animals. It's a great resource. Another one is Drawn to Life by Walt Stanchfield. Now this one, this one is a little bit more coming from the 2D side, like from the drawing perspective. But what it does is that it breaks down, there are two volumes, both of them are a mix of human characters and as well as animals. What it does is that it breaks down to the bare essentials of every pose, which again helps a lot with like the Glen Keane that we looked at. It's like basically something like this, which helps a lot. Like you see, like something like this, just this. Like when a dog is in a neutral pose, the spine is never straight. Now, all this little stuff, this is not something that you would necessarily notice when you're looking at reference, but it's a great thing to remember, because after you see this, you would never pose a straight spine. You know that that's never going to happen. Or for posing the legs, you see 4 legs, front legs and back legs all in parallel. That's not a good pose, and it's not interesting to look at. Whereas if you pose them to a little closer, to the other to a little farther apart, like something like this, that's much more interesting. So again, it's something that like helps with the mindset of both looking at a pose from a graphic point of view, to see the shapes, to see the lines, to see what is more interesting, and then switching the gear then into the realistic side to see the weight, to see the movement, which is, yeah, great resources. I will put the names of the books in the chat as well, just after we wrap, if you guys want to take a look. Also, another thing that's great to, if you guys have time, is comparative anatomy, which analyzes the difference between like how each animal has evolved, because we all have the same bone structure, but like for example the birds, the dogs, how they compare from human to their anatomy, which helps more with the understanding. So this is, again, if you just do a Google search and start looking at some of this stuff, it's a great learning for learning more. And then So I'll put the books list, I'll put the folder, you guys. And then yes, for next week, please open up the rigs, as many rigs as you can, and get familiar. If you want to do some simple stuff just to get used to them, please feel free to do that. And yeah, let's put some time every day for exercise, please. Even if it's half an hour, even if half an hour you don't have more time every day, it adds up, and then it's going to help you get the most out of this course.